Hello, good evening, everyone. The lights went down, so that means it's starting time. My name's Erin Dunn. I'm the curator of modern and contemporary art here at Telfair Museums. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for our artist talk with Joanna Paige Silver. Woo. We're really excited to have you and excited to celebrate the opening of Welcome to the Dollhouse. I have a few thank yous before we get rolling. I want to thank the City of Savannah and the Georgia Council for the Arts for investment in Telfair Museums. I also want to give my sincere thanks to Michael Dickens, who's the director and chief curator of the Halsey Institute of Contemporary Art in Charleston, South Carolina. He served as guest judge for this project and had the tough job of choosing out of many, many strong proposals. I just wanted to thank Milutin Pavlovic for help with install, as well as my fellow Telfair colleagues, Uriah Monk, Heath Rich, and Stephen Harmon. As many of you know, and I recognize many faces who've been to our Art 912 talks before, this is an initiative dedicated to raising the visibility and promoting the vitality of artists living and working in Savannah. We're thrilled that we've featured over 25 exhibitions related to this program since the initiative launched in 2016. And tonight I'm really proud that we're working with Joanna, who has been, part of Savannah's community in recent years, and we're really thrilled to celebrate your work tonight. So tonight we'll be looking at her project, Welcome to the Dollhouse. This is the 11th iteration of the annual Call to Artists Boxed In Breakout, which is a unique public-facing platform for artists to submit work to be on view in the 5 windows along Barnard Street at the Jepson Center. After the talk, I invite us all to go out on the sidewalk to actually look at the work in person. You'll see the 5 large-scale wooden dollhouses that are filled with artist-designed patterns, evoking the character of Savannah homes and the simultaneous hope and disappointment related to the current housing crisis. The installation will be up for a long time. It's up through May 9th of next year, so you have plenty of time to come back and see it in its different iterations and seasons and tell people to come look at it as many times as they can. So just a little bit about our artists tonight. Joanna Paige Silver is an artist working in painting, printmaking, and installation to capture remnants of the past. She obtained her BFA from the Corcoran College of Art and Design in Washington, D.C. in 2010, and her MFA in painting from the Savannah College of Art and Design in 2025. She has exhibited in group and solo shows in Atlanta, DC, Miami, Palm Springs, Providence, and Savannah. Her work has been shown at the Lowe Art Museum in Miami, Florida, the Corcoran Gallery of Art in Washington, DC, and the 2025 Atlanta Art Fair in Atlanta, Georgia. She was awarded a 2026 residency at the Vermont Studio Center. She is currently living and working in Savannah. So we're thrilled to have Joanna's installation on view in the windows and to dive more into the process and meaning behind the works in our conversation tonight. So please join me in welcoming Joanna to the stage. This is on. Okay, great.
Hello.
Yeah, are you ready? This is also, I will say, incredibly impressive too. As you might notice, Joanna has been doing this project. She's currently 8.5 months pregnant. So we are grateful that she has taken on this challenge among many other challenges. So thank you.
I will try not to go into labor.
That would be a first. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your proposal and the idea behind your concept. So I reread kind of what you had submitted, and you mentioned that you and your husband, Josh, who's in the audience tonight, you've had a bit of a difficult time finding a home to buy. You've been looking over the past 5 years. And can you talk about how that's maybe influenced some of the work that you've been thinking about, and maybe how it plays into this idea of a waning sort of idea of the American dream for you?
Yeah, so we started looking for a house during the pandemic, of course, which was probably the worst time in history to look for a house. And this whole body of work really came from all the different houses and disappointments with not taking offers on houses and nobody wanting to take our money. And I kind of just collected this photo diary of pictures from all these houses and was so intrigued by all the different places that we saw where people lived and like the layers of their lives that were in all these pictures. But when I wrote my thesis, it was called the American, like, I was talking about how the American dream is dying. And so you can't really buy a house anymore, and you can't like just have one job, and there's no more white picket fences, and things are just different from when we were talking about the American dream in the 50s. And so it all kind of started from there. And then I just started using these images I had taken in these like weird spaces to make all this work. And a lot of the prints and the wallpapers came from paintings that I made from tile and wallpaper that I found in these houses. So that was part of it too. And then we dealt with fertility issues as well. So, you know, like having a family and like all these things that come along with the American dream too, which thankfully it's finally worked. But yeah, just dealing with the fact that like that doesn't really exist anymore. And so many people in this country are dealing with the same things and can't find houses, and there are no houses, or everything's gray, or the color's kind of been taken out of the world.
Is there a hopeful side to your work, though? I mean, I know there's like some contradictions that you speak about in your work. Obviously, you showcase really bright patterns and colors, and I don't know that, you know, someone walking up to the dollhouses might necessarily see some of the disappointment as the first kind of feeling they get from the work. So how do you think that those contradictions work in the pieces?
So being from Miami, I feel like my color palette has just always come from that. There are a lot of bright colors and patterns, and I grew up in the fashion industry, so I was like, there were patterns there, and then so it all like comes from that. But there is, in the color brings like the hope. And even though a lot of the places are empty and there's no figures and there are weird distorted views and things like that, like you still, because of the color and the pattern, can feel like hope also, even though you're like, this is kind of confusing me. But yeah, I think you can see the hope in it too with the colors, and maybe you wouldn't even notice the disappointment, but then if you like think about it and sit with it for a second, you're just like, something's like missing, or these are empty spaces, or what was this, or...
Yeah, do you want to expand a little on the decision to leave? Because, you know, you call them dollhouses, and we might get some questions from people wondering why they are empty the way they are. And is that just kind of what you're saying here, that reflection of those kind of oscillating feelings of hope and disappointment?
Yeah, I wanted people to be able to like see their experience in these spaces rather than like me putting like a certain type of furniture or like a certain ambiance or people's like aesthetic. Sorry, pregnancy brain. And so I did want to leave them empty. And most of my paintings, there's no figures in them. They're also empty. So like, I want you, the viewer, to be able to put yourself in the space without, and create your own memories in there rather than like me pushing something on you.
And some of the houses, as you'll see when you walk by the windows, they have kind of different housings, you know, roof structures and floor plans. And I wonder if you talk a little bit too about just kind of constructing each of them to have their own personality.
Yeah, I wanted each one to be different because, I mean, we've looked at so many houses and they are all different and each one tells its own story. And I also looked at vintage dollhouse shapes when I was doing the proposal, so I wanted to incorporate that a little bit as well. And each of them comes from a house that I found that I wanted to like show, and the shape, and each one to be different. And I mean, all of our houses are different, and in Savannah there's so many different houses and none of them are perfect, and so I just kind of wanted to showcase that too. And I was lucky to have help from my friend Diego to build them because things are harder right now.
Yeah, they're 7 feet tall, so.
Yes. They are bigger than me. I can fit inside of them. But, which I didn't really think about when I was proposing them. So you learn things.
Yes, it's a very unique space and challenging space, as you know, we have some former box and breakout artists here. No. You spoke a little bit about Savannah, and I'm wondering more about the influence of this city. So you spoke about some of the colors kind of coming from your Miami background and fashion, but has Savannah changed the way you think about your work at all?
Definitely. So we moved here so that I could go to SCAD for my master's in painting, and before that I really did not know what I wanted to make, and that is why I wanted to go back for my master's, so I could stop doing commissions and just figure out like what I wanted to make and what I wanted to say with my art. And so moving here and starting class, and I did a class where you had to make 51-hour drawings, and it really helped me to like get out of my head and work faster in a way where like, because before I was doing photorealistic paintings and those take forever, and I'm just working off of a photograph that somebody else gave me, whereas like now I only take all my own photographs so that they're like experiences that I've actually lived and had. And I changed my style of painting while living here. The colors here have also inspired me, and then this project began in the houses that I was like looking at here. So all of the first pieces I did were based off of homes that I looked at here and spaces in Savannah. So that really helped too, just seeing all the old houses and their interiors and all the layers in them and the things that people left behind, and kind of just like these forgotten spaces.
Yeah, you and I have spoken a little bit about, you know, finding beauty in those kind of old houses and architectural details, and you spoke a little bit about it in your first answer. Things just seem very gray now, yes. That millennial gray kind of renovation. So I don't know, just maybe talk a little bit about what you find beautiful in these spaces that you're, you know, capturing usually through a camera first and then later in your paintings.
Yeah, I mean, I love patterns. I love like vintage patterns too. They're so colorful, and there's so many of them, and people used to like put a different pattern on everything in their house. And so when you walk into these old houses and you see these like, there's wallpaper, and then there's shelf paper, and then there's tile, and then there's linoleum flooring, and you're just like, this was so, people like actually express themselves through their homes, where like now when you're looking at a home, it's just like, here's a gray floor with a gray wall.
You can make it your own.
Furniture. Like, so I honestly, when we're looking at houses, I tell our realtor, I'm like, I don't want anything with a gray floor, and like, I like old bathrooms. Like, I'm like, cool, colorful tile, please. Like.
So you would like the pink bathroom in the old houses?
Oh,
for
yeah.
Sure.
For sure. Blue, yellow, whatever. Love a purple bathtub. But yeah, I feel like we need more of that. And there's been studies done that like the world is getting less colorful, and that color like brings people joy. And so they're like the world is like taking color out to kind of just like make people more subservient, which is like super interesting to me. But you can see the difference. Like if you look at a picture of like a car lot in like the 50s, and then you look at one now, they're like lots of colors, no color. You look at like an interior of a house, then it's like lots of color and patterns, now gray. Like it's just really interesting to see. Or like even like McDonald's used to be like super colorful and like have a playground. Now it's just like a beige box that with like a yellow M. Like it's just interesting to me.
So we would just be a lot happier if we had more color in our lives.
I think so, and I think people would like express themselves more and be able to.
I wanted to place your work, I guess, in a little more of an art historical context, because what you were saying made me think of kind of the pattern and decoration movement of the early 1970s, which was more of a feminist art movement, and their kind of motto was "more is more." And it was, working with patterns and also bringing into play a lot of techniques that were considered traditionally feminine, ceramics, tiling, textiles, embroidery, and then, making sure that it was seen as fine art, essentially. So I didn't know if you were thinking of any of those kind of earlier movements when you were making your work, or if that came into play at all.
Weirdly, like growing up, I looked at like more male artists than female artists, which actually probably isn't weird because that's just what we were shown. And now I feel like female artists are finally getting their dues, I guess, in a way. And I mean, last summer I took a class at a workshop at Anderson Ranch with Becky Suss, who also does like, yeah, she's great. Domestic paintings, and then like there's like Hillary Peckus, and just like a lot of women artists who are doing it now that I think I look at more than I did before. I mean, of course, there's like Miriam Shapiro and like Judy Chicago, and like, I mean, just Woman House and like things like that, but that I learned about in school. But I feel like I was more looking at like Roy Lichtenstein and like things like not necessarily super patterned and art like that, but more classic art when I was growing up. And then in grad school, I really started looking at more contemporary artists that were doing domestic spaces, but also just because I became interested in it too. So I don't know. I feel like now I'm looking at that more than I was before. But it also took me a really long time to figure out that this was what I wanted to paint. Right. So I'd print and
And that's also, my projection onto the work too, and how I'm seeing it kind of coming to it from the outside.
Yeah.
So,
and I took a surface design class in my last year of my master's, and that like totally changed my way of thinking too. Because the teacher was like, oh, you can make patterns out of your paintings and prints and like use bits of them to like make pattern, which I had never thought of, and now like clearly I love doing that. And I've made like fabric and wallpaper and upholstered things, and so it's just a different way. And then I also did a house that was made out of scrap pieces of fabric from my great aunt, so that I quilted together. And she worked in the fashion business, and my parents worked in the fashion business, so it's kind of like a sentimental thing to me. But she gave me all these scraps, and I didn't know what to do with them, and I was so frustrated that we couldn't find our own house. So I was like, I'm just gonna make a house. And so I like made this quilted house, there might be a picture of it, out of these scrap pieces of fabric and like an old piece of tile that I found at Restore, and some old books about weird things that we were going through. And you could go inside it and just like hang out in there, which some people here did too. So that was fun. But that kind of got me on like the making a physical house kick rather than just painting interiors. And then when this came up, I was like, oh, dollhouses, which I also was painting before I like figured out that I wanted to paint pictures of houses that I took pictures of. I was doing a project on like toys that I used when I was a kid that like brought like female expectations onto you. So it kind of like went from dollhouses to real houses that I was looking at, and then back to dollhouses again. So it's a funny little circle.
Yeah, I mean, so talk about the scale that you've moved into. You do a lot of painting and printmaking, kind of working at a smaller scale, and now you're talking about this recent project where you made a house, and then you applied for this project, and I think we have to give a shout out to Josh, who's the one who gave the flyer to Joanna and encouraged her to apply, so thank you.
I found it at Art Southeast.
Yeah, also shout out to Art Southeast.
Yeah.
But it's a weird space, so just like, how did you have to
is.
think about your work differently for that space?
Well, I definitely started thinking about it in like more of an installation. I've been doing installations since undergrad, and they were all kind of domestic spaces too, actually, weirdly, now that I think about it. But then I turned one of the studios in Alexander into a Barbie dollhouse inside, but like a very minimalist version of it. And then I built this other house, which was 6 feet tall and 4 feet wide. And then I built these, which were 7 by 5 feet, and they were definitely the biggest thing I've built. But I enjoy like making spaces that you like have to walk into or like put yourself into, because I kind of want to do that with my paintings and prints anyway. You're kind of like looking into it in a weird viewing or way, and I want you to like feel like you're inside this memory or space. So I think building spaces now is kind of on the right track and fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that kind of putting the viewer in spaces, because a lot of your work does have a bit of like an odd perspective to it where, I don't know, it unsettles me a little bit sometimes because I'm not sure where I am spatially in the work that you're presenting.
People say that a lot, but I kind of like that because it goes along with the like hope and disappointment thing. Like you're looking at these colorful spaces, but you're also like, this is a weird way to look at this. But I mean, we look at things like we're not looking at something straight on when we're looking at it. We're looking at it at everything. So I feel like it's kind of nice to encompass like the little corners and weird spaces too.
Yeah, shout out to the weird spaces.
Yes.
So what do you hope is your impact of this work on kind of just the average person walking by?
I hope they just kind of like find some fun in it. I mean, they're giant dollhouses and with weird fun patterns in them that are bright and colorful. So, but then I also hope that they read the banner, which talks about what they're actually about, which is not being able to find a home, and that most people in this country can't really find or afford a home, and they're all kind of a little wonky, but like still good. And so like houses in Savannah, nothing here is perfect, and nothing is perfect anywhere. So, but yeah, I hope they just like find some joy in them too, but also see like, why are these empty? But like we said, but yeah. I mean.
Are there any kind of works that you have on the slideshow that we haven't talked about that you want to point out or mention?
I mean, this was like a really big painting. This is from Lester's down on Bull Street, which I think I don't really do signs and letters very much, but I felt like this really spoke to everything I was talking about in my thesis, and that's when I made this painting. And I did make prints out of it too, but yeah, I think you can just see the color and the spaces, and everyone's been in one of these tiled bathrooms or seen like floor tiles like that, so everyone has their own memories in these spaces that they can relate to. This was another wallpaper space that I made.
But also the upholstery too, right?
Yeah.
Was your pattern?
It reminded me of Garden State, the movie where he like wears the matching shirt against the wallpaper. That's where the idea came from.
I need to rewatch that movie.
Great movie. But it was actually called Garden State. But I wanted you to like just feel like you were in the space too. So even though it's not like a 3D space, you're still in a space filled with pattern. And yeah, I made the fabric and upholstered the bench, and it was fun learning to do more things.
Yeah, I feel like that's your next project, is like an entire room of all
great.
your patterns.
I would love that. I've mocked it up.
Yeah, so someone help, Joanna figure out where she can do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, this is a part I really love to just kind of open it up to the audience. If there are any burning questions or any, works you've seen on the screen that have really called out to you and you want to know more about, or if you just want to ask in general about the Box and Breakout project, yeah, I'd love to open it up to the audience at this time. And usually we can hear the questions pretty well, but I'll just repeat them so that we can hear them later on the recording. Up at the top. There are two hands. You guys choose.
Yeah.
So the question was why you're taking the photographs the way you are, and the certain kind of perspective you're looking at, because they don't seem like, necessarily the kind of straightforward perspectives that you take.
Would definitely never call myself a photographer, but I've always had an interest in taking pictures of like everything. And we made 18 offers on homes in Savannah, and so halfway through I was just like, I'm going to get something out of this. And so I started taking more pictures of things that I found were interesting in these homes, because I knew I wanted to do something with them. But if you look on my phone, there's just like, or in camera stuff, there's just so many pictures of like patterns and just things I find interesting, and not necessarily like that anyone else would. But when I'm in a space, I just like to document that. And so I was like, at least I can use these for something rather than just filling up my phone or SD card or whatever there was. I mean, even in my bedroom as a kid, I had a whole wall that was filled with just pictures of my friends just doing nothing and just weird things. So it's just at least a way that I can use these images now. And I really stopped enjoying using other people's images to make art during grad school and right before. So I'm enjoying just using things that I've taken. I think it makes it more personal too.
Sorry, I'm going to jump in really quick and ask about like the photo diaries that you had, because you mentioned those earlier. Are those those are physical objects where you've pasted in the photographs that you've taken?
I have a lot of photo albums, but no, they're more just like on my phone and computer where
Okay.
I like, because there's too many. I just
It would be too.
them.
Okay, I was wondering.
But yeah, when I worked in the shoe business, one of the designers I worked with, he just had like a collection of everything he thought was interesting. And ever since then, I've also just like kind of started doing that. He'd be like, open this folder and look at this designer. And like, I'm going to make this. And so that kind of helped.
So there's some sort of organization to the madness.
Some sort of. In my head, at least. Maybe not to the naked eye.
Yeah. At the top.
Yeah, I mean, all the patterns have come from the paintings or prints that I've made, so I think at least that picks it out of the art. But then I'm not really using them in like traditional architectural spaces either, or ways. Like I'm not like, oh, I did make some pillows actually, and they are in people's houses, so I will say that. But I'm not like, oh, I'm gonna make this wallpaper to put in somebody's bathroom. Like I'm gonna make it to put in an installation or to put in these houses or to like use within an art context, not like a domestic space context, I guess. Does that make sense? But I'm not making them to like sell them or start like a home line. I'm making them like as part of the art. So I think, does that answer your question? Okay.
Because I feel like we will get people actually who are like, how can I get the wallpaper that's in the house in the box and breakout window?
Yeah, I mean, they can. I won't say no, but that's not why I made it, you know? I'm not trying to be like a textile designer, but I mean, I love textiles, so I wouldn't mind if somebody had it in their house. But they all do come from like other wallpapers I've seen or other patterns or fabrics or floors or spaces rather than like me designing them too.
Yeah. Phil? Did you find a house? Are you going to decorate it?
We have not found a house. Between California, Savannah, and New York, we've probably made 30-something offers on homes. Literally, no one wants to take our money. I don't really understand. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we got the last house that we made an offer on here, but there was literally everything wrong with it possible that could be wrong with the house. So we gave it up. But I do look for houses that still have vintage elements left in them, and I wouldn't change it. Like the house we just made an offer on had a blue bathroom, a yellow bathroom, and our realtor was like, oh, these all need to be totally gutted, and I was like, no. Definitely keeping that, and so I would like to incorporate that and patterns and wallpaper, and I try to buy vintage furniture whenever I can, and went to a store today, but it would definitely be older things. I mean, new stuff is just not as well made. It's not the same. It doesn't have the character that these old things have, and I love patterns and I love fabrics, and our house is pretty colorful now, even though we can't do anything to it, but the stuff in it is colorful.
Yeah, Joanna and I were bonding over, what's it called, that thrifting show that's
yeah.
on Hulu now? Or maybe it's I just watch it on Hulu.
Yeah,
but it's
same.
essentially like everyone has to go out based on an idea, like maximalist or whatever, and thrift and find everything to create the room.
Yeah, I want to be on that show.
You'd be good on that show.
And you have to like DIY everything and change it and just I think it would be so fun. But yes, I do like incorporating those things, and we would like to find a house, especially soon. So, but we'll see what happens. Thanks.
For example, in this piece, was the bathroom actually those colors, or do you make color choices when you're retaining the photographs?
Yeah, that's actually the bathroom in her house right there. And she wants to get rid of it, and I was like, I'm taking pictures because it's so good. I'll be mad at you if you do. But yeah, so like I had said before, being from Miami, I feel like that's just like the colors from growing up there are just like in my blood. And even though I haven't lived there in 10 years, it's just like my palette. And I think even if I take a picture and it's like slightly different, I still go back to this palette and like change it a little bit. So it just like comes, it's just in me. But I love bright colors, like I said, and I want things to be more colorful, but I do, like even if I see something, I'm like, oh, I love those colors, and then I go to paint it, and it doesn't look right when I'm painting it. It's not like the color I want. I will alter it a little bit to make it more. But I don't mean to make everything in the same palette. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm just wondering about the two paintings that are not interiors. There's one of like roses, I think, and then there's one where there's a pattern of diamonds with daisies on the bottom.
Yeah, so the roses were when we were dealing with fertility issues, and they were, I mean, roses are perennials, so it kind of had something to do with, you know, beauty coming from death and rebirth, and me getting really in my head during that time. But they were from a house right by where we lived, and we would see them on our walk like every day. And just one day I was like, these look so nice, and they made me happy. So, but you see in the background there's like this like house, Savannah house, that's like not in the best of shape too. So it's like beauty, and then I don't know, it all kind of made sense for me. And then the diamonds with the flowers was when we were in Europe recently, and it was kind of the same idea. We were still dealing with these issues, and I was like, those are weeds, but they're still so pretty, and with the graffiti and behind it, and I just like was like, this is not supposed to be pretty, but I find it really beautiful. So, and the colors also, but I did kind of alter them a little bit in that one too. But yeah, both kind of dealing with like something beautiful coming from something not so beautiful.
Any other questions? Oh. What's your advice for other artists?
Well, I'm in a show with Henry right now that is open
Oh
tomorrow.
yeah, go to Cute Tomatoes and see the show.
Yes, come see both of our artwork. But yeah, art is just constant hustle and always looking for
Put yourself out there,
inspiration.
apply.
Yeah. Apply to as many things as you can, because you don't get most of them, and what you do get ends up being awesome. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, come to our show tomorrow night, Cute Tomatoes, first Friday. well, I got pregnant, so that made things a lot harder. But the day that I finished my thesis, I got into a really good residency, so that was luck and made me be like, okay, I have to keep going. So, and then I also gave myself a year, which also was last week, to just try and make art only and not get another job. And luckily, I have been able to do that. So I've just really forced myself to continue to make work and sell myself and try and apply for as many shows and proposals as I can and do as much as I can to make it keep going. But yeah, this has made things harder. I mean, great, but definitely I don't have an everyday studio practice right now because some days I just need to lie down. But it's also kind of forced me to be like, I want to not lose my momentum just because I'm having a baby. So I keep pushing myself to keep doing more, which is probably not the best idea, but it's worth it if you really want it.
I think that's a great sentiment to end on. If there aren't any other questions, it's worth it if you really want it. Can everyone just join me in a round of applause for Joanna?
Thank you.
If you have time, please join us out on the sidewalk so that we can all look at the work in person. The museum will be closing up shortly, so make sure you take all your stuff with you. But we really appreciate everyone coming out tonight. Thank you for being here, and thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you all.